Hey, good morning. Hola, kakahiaka, bon maiden. And let's see what else we got here. Malap Chiano Kian. Welcome to That's Life with Ev.O.Lution. I am your host, Ev.O.Lution. And today, man, I got a very special guest today, Mr. the one and only Sean Shank. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ev.O.Lution. How you doing this morning, my friend?
Great, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise.
Wow, I'm really excited about today, man. It's been a little bit since we've seen each other.
Mhm.
Why don't you, for the people who don't know who Sean Shank is, give them a little brief description of who you are.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I'm a stand-up comic. I've been doing that for about 29 years. I'm an author, a college professor. I run a comedy club. Family guy. I have 2 puppies and a hedgehog. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of varied interests. Like you, I'm jumping into the podcast world pretty soon, and I don't know. I think that's a pretty good primer.
Man, look, that's a lot, and congratulations to you on all that.
Thanks, brother.
Speaking of that, I believe it's titled Sean Shank Redemption, the podcast that you're coming up with.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dude,
give
look, man.
Give us a little description of what you're going to be talking about, man.
Well, here's the thing. It's just dumb luck is what it is. I had a podcast for a while with some fellow comics called the Deli Cast, and that was great for like 3 years. But it was just us sitting around talking. But I've always loved the whole podcast thing, like what you're doing. And because I'm the GM of a comedy club, I get access to comics every single week, and comedians, are very interesting people. And if you sit down with them and start talking and get kind of beyond the comedy world, like their opinions on things, it's just because to be a comic, you have to be a student of humanity. So they're very aware of, what's going on around. And so I think it's going to be something that's going to be fun because they're comics. They'll be funny, but also incredibly informative too. So that's it. It's just me sitting down with the comics that we're going to have at the club every week and sitting back and chatting with them.
Man, that sounds very exciting, man. Congratulations to you once again.
Thanks, brother.
I know you're a very busy man, so we're going to hop off into this today. Basically, before I do that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, JG's Lounge, TGBTG, and Golden Diamond Productions. And usually we also kick things off with a question, but I'm going to give the topic before we get into what I call Leah's question. The topic of today is make time for yourself while making time for everyone else. And to get us going on that, we have Leah's question of the day. All right. Today, we are blessed with 2 Leah's questions of the day, and this is the first one. How do you know you're taking too much time for yourself versus spending time with the people you care about? Examples of this. I think the best way I can do this is say pay attention to things that are going on. Sean, with that question in mind, do you have anything before we get started?
To that question, how do you know if you're taking too much time versus spending it with others?
Yes.
This is kind of a deep one because,
Hmm. Hmm.
like frankly, this, and it's kind of germane to my life because I work 7 days a week, and sometimes,
Absolutely.
right. So I'm going like
Absolutely.
20 hours a day, and, my uh, people around me will start saying this. They'll give you little clues, like little,
Hmm. Hmm.
like say things like, "Man, I haven't seen you in a minute," or "How you been? Look, I know." And the one thing that starts kicking up with me a lot is that, I know you're a busy guy, but if you don't mind, and these are some of my best friends saying stuff like this, and then
Hmm.
it hits me like, bro, I gotta step back from all of my responsibilities and spend time with the people that I care about. Because if my best friends and my family members are starting sentences with, "Look, I know you're busy, but like
Hmm.
not doing
Hmm.
things the right way."
Man, that is a great response, and it leads right into where we're going. Um, so the first thing that you need to really pay attention to is pay attention to the terms and what people are saying, which is basically exactly what you're dealing with. Myself, only a couple people deal with these type of things, right? So I'm being a little extreme sometimes on this, and then I'll flip it to the other side and give people a option to kind of work with things that they're dealing with when it's in regards to this. So if you walk in the house, Sean,
Hmm?
and your significant other is standing there, you're tired, you've been working all day, and first thing you walk into is, I'm being neglected.
Oh,
uh,
like she just up in my face says that to me.
yeah. Uh-huh. What do
Okay.
you how do you respond to something like
Well, my first response is I probably push her in the forehead, just like, no,
that?
no. Man, if my significant other came at me with that statement, I'm being neglected, even as tired as I am,
Mhm.
like that takes unless they're just a nagging personality, which some people are,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
but if they're to that level of direct communication, man, that's a thing where you have got to just, I don't care how tired you are, you got to put on full stop, just sit your stuff down and go, okay, what's going on?
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, because that you have to understand. This is the weird thing about getting older. And actually, I'm getting starting my run for my PhD in psychology in January. I love human psychology,
Nice.
and yeah, and as you get older, you start to have not perception, which is just what you see in the world, but you have perspective, which is putting yourself in another person's shoes. And if
Mhm.
my spouse is saying something like that to me, then you have to understand it probably isn't a knee-jerk reaction. They've probably been like marinating on this for a while.
Absolutely.
And right, and knowing how busy you are and not wanting to, if they care about you, not wanting to like make things worse. But if it's bubbled up to the point where they just flat out like, I have to say something, then you have to know they've been beating themselves up over this for a while. So
Right.
you got to give them, you know, as long as they're being reasonable,
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
you give them all the attention in the world and they're still like, you're neglecting me, like that kind of, then you probably need to be out of the relationship. But
Ooh.
right. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
what would you do? I mean, like somebody that you step through and, they're shaking their fist in your face.
Uh, you know, um, that's happened before.
Really? Like, shit, they said that. Oh, wow.
Only once. But in that scenario, in that situation, kind of exactly what you mentioned. I had to it definitely gets your attention, you
Mhm.
know, and then you're like, whoa, hey, um, okay, let's talk about this. Let's get into why you're at this point and what led to this point and what we can do to resolve this feeling that you're feeling, and you know, tell me what it is I can possibly do to make you feel more, or make you not feel neglected. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it leads into a long conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. And the thing is too, it's like I almost would feel like there's just a compulsion, because I know with my wife, if she said something like that to me, my first probably response, not to push her in the forehead, but like I would probably drop everything and just go over and hug her and say I'm
Mm,
sorry without even having to need an explanation for why she's feeling that way, because she's such a good woman,
mhm,
that like it it's just instant guilt, I think. I would
mm.
I would feel, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's excellent. And to add to that, a hug was a part of my relief on that too.
Nice. Well, hugs are awesome, man. Like there's a whole physiology behind human contact in the way that's like, I think it's after 20 seconds of continuous hugging with somebody,
Hmm.
as long as it's not awkward, where they're like trying to pull back from me. But
Right.
right, but with somebody that like you care about, I think it's after 20 seconds it literally starts a healing process
Hmm. Hmm.
inside of the other person. So I always make a point to, for the people that I'm very close to, when I give them hugs, unless they start pulling away, I literally am counting down in my head because I want that healing process to start. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but it's, to me, it's just like, you know what? This is the point of human connection. We're built a certain way. We don't fully understand everything that we've been blessed with in this life. You know what I mean? Like how we're
Right.
created. So it's like, why not perpetuate those things that, serve us as humans? So yeah.
For sure, 100%. And that's actually not weird, but it's very effective because it breaks down that um, wall of aggressiveness that they're bringing towards you.
Yeah.
It just kind of melts that all down, so you can communicate and get straight directly to the issue at hand.
Right.
Uh, on the flip side, let's say the same thing happens, but instead of saying neglected, they say, "I feel like I'm being smothered." I'm gonna get you with some stuff today.
You made the whole screen shake. Well, I guess probably then I'd let go of the 20-second hug first and foremost. Um, here's the weird thing, evolution. That's an odd one for me. Not that
Hmm.
I don't understand the psychology of. I've been on the end where it's like I feel smothered, but I'm such an independent kind of person
Hmm.
that, and I might have some exes that disagree, but I tend to not be the one that is just all up in your face all of the time.
Hmm.
I'm kind of my own entity, because I truly believe that, healthy relationships are like kind of a Venn diagram where, you have one person here and one person here. When they come together, it should just overlap a little bit because they were
Hmm.
individuals before they got into the relationship.
True.
Right. But what happens is, so many times there becomes this like power struggle, and you see one, kind of completely taking over the other instead of just meeting a little bit in the middle and merging your lives. So then that's where the
Hmm.
smothering happens. And it's just like, I truly think, I don't know how you feel about it with your relationships, but like, if, you know, my SO was just like, hey, I'm gonna go out with the girls tonight. All right, have fun. You know,
Hmm.
do your
Hmm.
thing. It's I don't know. I believe we need to give human beings, especially ones that we truly care about, the freedom to live and be human beings. It doesn't show like, oh, we must not care about them to just want them to just let them go. It's like, no, I do care about them and I trust them. Just go have fun. I'm an adult. I can figure out how to entertain myself. I'm good.
Absolutely. If nothing else, get a good nap in.
Oh, dude, God, I love naps. And I'm more
they're
than I love.
great.
Yeah, they are.
They're great.
If I could have married a nap instead of my wife, I would have done it. She's asleep, so I can say that.
Oh man. Uh, so I'm gonna do a couple other things here with that. Uh, Now this is a different kind of avenue to take, but the conversation starts out. We need to talk. Wake up, Sean.
No, God, no, it's not that. It's just like, uh, man, that is the verbal version of getting kicked in the junk, dude. All right. So first of all, all right,
Absolutely.
all right, brother, look here. When I was a younger man, if
Mhm,
I heard we need to talk, I go, okay. Like I would kind of acquiesce immediately and get ready for my talking to.
mhm,
But I no, I pulled a brain scramble on him, and this is not even my own move. I heard it from somebody else, and when I
mhm,
started to kind of wake up and realize that like I'm enough of a person, I like myself, I can stand up for myself, in relationships.
mhm.
So I've had it where they say we need to talk, and I will say no, you need to talk. All right, I don't need to talk. You have something now. If I want to listen, that's a different situation, and it always disarms them because they it's they come in, they build up this whole argument. I'm gonna say all this
Mhm,
stuff. I'm gonna
mhm.
get him on this point, get him on this point, and then when you're just like, no, we don't. Like you may need to say some stuff. I don't need to. Now, if you want to have and this is what I always follow up with. I'll say, now,
Mhm.
if you want to have a conversation like adults so we can work this out, I am all ears. And you can see like the dismantling of, their little army that they had lined up, on the
Yeah.
field of battle. And
Mhm.
it's like, no, 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 let the leaders come out and they'll parlay or whatever
Right.
the word is.
Exactly. Man,
I mean,
that's
what would
correct.
you do? Like that, you say that it comes out of your mouth. That couldn't have felt good even saying it. What do you?
It's kind of like a shock and awe situation. I don't think anybody's ever prepared for that. But I think the way you responded to it was great. Like you said, it kind of breaks down all of their strategic uh, efforts to, attack you, because that's what it is. It's an attack.
Oh, dude, yeah, when that we need to talk. It is just, dude. It's the equivalent of, but the opposite of, I feel neglected,
Mhm,
right? Where they're reaching out to you. Again, I believe truly that they've spent time thinking about this and like trying to, hold back, but it just finally it hit the surface. And this one, it's the same thing, but they're getting ready to attack you at every turn. But
mhm,
when you disarm them, you know and say, show them that it's actually kind of a nice technique, because when you show them that you're ready for a conversation, when you say,
mhm,
like, let's sit down and talk,
mhm.
then they feel like, oh wow, like I will be heard. um
Exactly. Exactly.
so, and that's the thing, I think. I've noticed, if nothing else, in this society, where we are having, I would call it a narcissistic pandemic with the TikTok,
Mhm,
look at me type stuff. I think people are so desperate to have a voice and be heard. And it becomes particularly egregious in a relationship when this is the person that's supposed to care about you more than
mhm.
anybody else in the world, and you don't feel heard by them.
Right. Right.
Ooh, like how dismantling is that to yourself?
Very. Like I said, it definitely sparks a conversation immediately. There's no time to push that one off. When that comes to you, it's like everything stops, like you said,
Mhm.
and you have to get to the bottom of it, and hopefully you can, depending on how deep you got to dig,
Yeah.
or slide or parachute down.
It's a free fall.
Yeah. Yeah. I got one more. One
I
more.
know, all good, man. Keep 'em coming.
um, Controlling. Have you ever dealt with someone coming to you in a way or manner that says that, or make it try to make it seem like or appear that you're being controlling with it?
Oh, wow, man. Okay, so here all right, this is an interesting topic because,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
all right, so I am a professor of English and creative writing, so I take words very seriously.
Yes.
And people take the term narcissist and they just bandy it about like it just applies. It's this liberal swath that it applies to everything. It's like if you actually look at the psychopathy of a true dyed in the wool narcissist, it is not pretty. It is not a
No.
pretty thing.
No.
But people can have narcissistic tendencies. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all a bit narcissist because we all have survival instinct, right? We all live
Right.
upside our own heads. Okay. But when it comes to the controlling thing, I have had some individuals in my past that have had narcissistic tendencies, and what happens is they tend to flip the script on you. And if you've
Mm-hmm.
ever been with a narcissist, you know this, where they're like, you're controlling me. It's like they're I don't know if it's genuflecting is the right word, but they're putting all of the stuff that they're doing onto you
Mm-hmm.
to, and you're noticing that they're being controlling, but then they're like, you're controlling me. And you're like, wait, what? And then also,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
right. And then you feel kind of like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the one that's controlling. So I've had to fight back against people that were being controlling. But the thing that I found to be true more often than not is that anybody that is trying to control things in a relationship or in any in their, they don't have control in their own life.
Mm.
If you look at those individuals that you think of as like they try to control everything,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of chaos that they're not able to manage somewhere else. So it
Mm-hmm.
gets pushed off, and maybe not even at that time. It might have been something that happened to them earlier in their life where they had no control. So now their mindset is, by God, I'm going to control everything and everybody. And they might not even be doing it overtly. They
Mm-hmm.
may just be doing it as a reflexive action to stuff that happened to them in the past.
Wow. Strong point. Man, that wraps that up.
Next page, boom.
All right. So the next subject here is pay attention to the times. And when I found this out, you might already know this, or other people might already know this, but I thought this was very, very interesting. Um, most people spend less than 2.5 hours a day, as far as the amount of time with their significant other. Um, and also with that, I'm gonna just lead into this because I think it'll be a great subject and a great conversation. In a healthy relationship, you should spend 70% of your time together and 30% of your time apart. Now, when you factor that in with there's only 24 hours a day, you should get 8 hours of sleep. You work for 8 or more hours a day. Uh, you name it, appointments, kids, all that other stuff. How much time are people really spending together?
Dude, holy cow. Wow. When you said pay attention to the times, I was like, oh, we're going to start talking about like end times philosophy and things? No, times with a spouse. Okay.
Yes.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
dude. Here's something I have noticed, and it is pay attention to the times, attached to pay attention to the times. And when I say pay attention to the times, the time that we're in, we have become, yeah, it's so funny that we become so attached to these things,
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
that even though people are spending time together, I see people like couples together all the time, but I see them like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing.
Yep.
So, in you know, can you count that as time? I don't
No.
think you can,
No.
because just because you're in proximity, but you're so engaged with the phone, it's not like because you're not doing it together. I mean, some might
Mm-hmm.
argue that like if you're both on your phone and it's just like I know I can spend times with my SO where we're together for hours, don't have to say a word, and it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. It's just like that level of comfort that you're just glad to be together. But I find with people in the iPhone culture
Mm-hmm.
or smartphone culture, excuse me. Um, Not trying to call out other brands out there, unless you want to give Ev.O.Lution some free iPhones and stuff, by all means, got your hookup. But they're not. It's you're engaged in something else, and I think it's like a portal dragging you into that world, and you're pulled away. So you can be right next to a person, and with that, it's I don't think it's spending time together. So that's tough. And I know I'm going kind of tangential off of
No, you're good. You're good.
the original question, but we don't really spend a lot of time together with that nowadays, because if you think about it, back to 40 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
which, oh my God, was 1983. Wow. But people were still sitting down for dinner. Like, I remember as a kid,
Right.
every
Right.
night, like cooking dinner, mom and dad talking, spending time after, their days, and like, well, what happened? This, jerk said this, blah, blah, blah. And, oh,
Uh-huh.
this happened, yada, yada. And then we would all put the stuff on the table, sit down, talk, eat together, and then we'd clean up, stuff together. And then, it was just, it was so different. The pace was so different, but they had those times where there was that togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
Now today, dude, I mean, we've got like DoorDash, and it's just, man, I don't know. Like, I know we're talking about healthy amounts of time to spend with a spouse, but I don't even think we're getting even close to like the flip side. You said
Yeah.
70-30. I think it's 30-70. And even that 30 that we're getting
Mm-hmm.
is still not quite together.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point, and that's where we're going with this. When you sit down and actually think about where we are most of the time and how we communicate and how we spend time with each other, then it starts to make sense of how the percentage is so high when people's relationships don't work or the divorce court is full all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
then also on top of that, when you look at those time frames, 8 hours at work with coworkers, then it starts to make sense why all these people who work together end up together.
yeah. We
you know?
spend more time at work
Hmm.
than we do with our own families. It's
Yeah.
a fact,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And what a shame that is. I've been a big proponent for years. Like, I'm a hard worker. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, people that put in time, we're hard workers, but I've been a proponent of the 4-day work week
Hmm.
for years. And I've been working since I was 8 years old, dude.
Hmm.
And because we don't have enough time with our families. But I don't know that it would cure anything right now. Cause, like, what's weird too? And you tell me what you think about this, because this is a trend that I've noticed in the courting phase. Like, we're taking our SO out, we're getting them flowers, we're doing
Hmm.
stuff, we're spending, we're giggling, and we hold hands at movies and things. But once that familiarity sets in,
It's,
we it's what I mean. It's like
it
that.
takes a dive.
Yeah, it does take a dive. It does
Hmm.
take a dive, and then it's just you kind of like trade that for the fact that like, well, we're together and I see you every day.
Hmm.
But yet you look at these new couples, and that initial thrust where they're together,
Hmm.
they're doing all those things that, frankly, I think we should still be doing
Boom.
7 years, 14 years, 20 years in.
Hmm.
Shit, I got to buy my wife flowers, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You're gonna make it a good day for a couple people, man.
So yeah, man, this is beautiful and sad at the same time. Beautiful uh, because we are opening people's eyes to what is actually happening, and sad because we are opening people's eyes to what is happening. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, so we're gonna get off that and move on to the next one. Um,
Holy cow. Deep
pay
morning,
attention.
man.
Yeah, yeah. Pay attention to what is happening. Um, you earlier you mentioned look for the signs. So this is basically the signs to look for. For instance, little things setting you off when you are with your significant other. You know, I'll dig deeper in this, and then I'll give you time to marinate on that.
Mhm.
Um, you can just sometimes come in the door and say, "Hey, you know, how's your day? How you doing?" And boom, there's an explosion. You know, they're like firing off because they got a lot to unload. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, what is your take on that, Sean?
Bro, there is so much psychology floating around in this. Well, it's kind of hard to pinpoint because
Uh-huh.
it's all right. So it's easy for us to unload on, and I know this is a bit afield of the actual intent of the question, so I'll circle back.
Mm-hmm.
But it is easiest for us to unload on our significant other because they're our sounding board, and they can take it. And like subconsciously, that. So if you're just blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
it's easiest for us to do that on those closest to us, which is really kind of counterintuitive. We shouldn't be doing that to the people that are closest to us.
Absolutely.
But who do we have to listen to us, right?
Right.
But I believe, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
um, what we're referring to here is it is a cumulative effect of it's like death by a thousand cuts. It's not one big blow. You know what I
Way to
mean?
put it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've always been of that mindset in a lot of things in life. It's an old saying, death by a thousand cuts or one big
Mm-hmm.
blow.
Mm-hmm.
Both ways you die. And, the one big blow would be the affair, right? Let's say that's
Absolutely.
the big thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's that. But then the other side is, you know, it's insidious almost the way it creeps up on people. Cause it's like, if a guy has asked his wife, please, when you're putting dishes in the dishwasher, don't do it like a raccoon busted into the house and tried to do dishes to be helpful. Like, please have more than three and stack them correctly so we can actually shut the thing.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going over and over and over again, right? And
Mm-hmm.
those build up, and then when the explosion happens, the other person's like, "What the hell?" No,
Mm-hmm.
dude, you didn't listen,
Absolutely.
500 things back. But there's a point that I want to share on this,
Mm-hmm.
and but then see what your thoughts on it are.
Okay.
My dad, when both my parents have passed, but when my dad was alive, when he would stir his coffee in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he did this. It's because it is kind of irritating. But instead of stirring it like a normal human being, he would like bink, 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 bink. He would tink the spoon against the sides of the cup for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would get on him about it for the longest time, and he wouldn't stop doing it. And it wasn't a disrespectful thing. I think it was just he was tired in the morning. It was what he did. His dad, my grandpa Paul probably did it.
Mm-hmm.
But then my mom said something, and I thought it was probably one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. She said, "One day I just stopped nagging him about it." And I said, "Well, why?" And she goes, "Because I realized that it would be far more tragic to wake up in the morning without him here and not hearing the clinking of that spoon in the glass."
Wow. Wow. That's
And so
great.
I was just like, my mind just like, holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a sound that is associated with him. And even though it nagged her in her younger years,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's that thing, as you get older, you start to, it's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and she realizes like it is far more important that I have my loved one here, and he clinks his glass. So it's like, psh,
Man, that's a lot of wisdom right there.
bro, dude, talk about something that you hear that, and all of a sudden it's like you start looking at all those small things
Mm-hmm.
that somebody does, and you're like, man, is this really that important? Maybe
Yeah.
I'm the jerk, maybe I need to lighten up because it's so much more valuable with this person in my life,
Absolutely.
dude.
And then I want to bring it to this from this look. Um, in the beginning of a relationship, everybody looks at that like as cute or they appreciate that. You know what I mean? And then after it evolves, after time, it gets annoying. You know, but then right, right.
Yep,
Did I strike a nerve?
you did.
Okay. Okay. Um, all right. Moving on.
No, no, no. It's hilarious to me.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
I had an ex, and God love her. She has a lot of stuff that's great about her. But it was just one of those things that, like together, it was not a good thing, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but she had this thing where it was like that lovey dovey wumpkins baby loves me, kind of like baby talk, and like
uh,
I did that for the longest time, and I think about it now, and it makes my spine just clink out like a Jenga tower. It's just like, oh my god,
oh man.
yeah. Oh, okay, sorry, man. That was a
No,
flashback.
no, that's good. Because you know what? There are people out there right now, only two, that are experiencing that as we speak. But
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
definitely undershooting that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Uh, so another thing we want to pay attention to, as far as what is happening, is the everyday routine that potentially gets dull.
oh man. Boy, did you just like break open a psychology book and go, all right, we're going to get into the deepest parts of.
No, no,
Um,
actually, I just pay attention. I pay attention to everything that everybody does, everything that everybody says, and I listen. And I try to come up with a solution or a way to make them open their eyes so that they can evolve past that situation that they're in. And this is like years of stuff that I've collected, um, from a childhood. So when I got an opportunity to present these scenarios on my podcast, I just started writing, man, and I got so much material. It's ridiculous, but I'm glad that I get the opportunity to do this and try to help people with it, because it's a lot going on out there, and it needs to be addressed. But hopefully, through watching things like this, people can start addressing them and
yeah,
get it off their chest and move forward and come together.
that's awesome, man.
Thank
That's
you.
beautiful. I
Thank
love
you.
it, man. All right, okay. So back on what? Say the thing again. All right,
Yeah,
what was
yeah, yeah.
it?
Basically, we need to pay attention to the everyday routine that
Ah,
eventually gets dull.
yeah. So, all right, that leads to a lot of things. I mean, there's
Hmm.
words for it like ruts.
Hmm.
It also leads into things like the midlife crisis, which happens to both men and women. We have this for unbelievable stigma that it attaches to men, and I have seen just as many women go through the thing,
Hmm.
because it is a process of aging. But there are a lot of factors that lead into that, and it is just the rinse cycle repeat.
Hmm.
And um, as far as it is germane to couples, okay. Now, I always tell my students, outside of relationships, when it comes to the routine, the ruts that we get into,
Hmm.
you know, I always tell them, like, do not follow your parents' path, do not follow society's path. Do what you love. Do
Yeah.
something that sparks you, spark yourself every day, and in that way
Hmm.
you will spark the world. Okay.
Boom, man, that's great.
But when it comes to like being in a couple, you know, that dude, routine is dangerous because it's so
Yeah,
comfortable. It is,
absolutely.
and it is almost like the siren song where it plies you in like this, like every day it's like, come
Hmm.
home, you can sit down and have a beer, and then you'll have supper, and you can't do that. You can't, if you love the other person, and the thing is, people think it has to be like all these monumental like moves, like
Mhm.
I hired a skywriter to put your name in the clouds. Dude, shut up.
Right?
It's like what's to like for a lady, like what's your dude's favorite music? Does he dig like older bands like 311 or something like that, or some
Mhm,
old R&B that's awesome?
mhm,
Go out and get him a record. Like vinyl's hot right now. If he listens to vinyl, just out of the blue, dude, I will tell you one of my now it's gonna make me cry. One of my
uh,
favorite moments from when I
mhm,
was a kid, and I still to this day think about it. It made me think because I said 311.
mhm,
My dad stopped at a music store on the way home from work one day, and my dad worked 6 7 days a week. He was a stamping manager. We hardly saw him,
mhm,
but he worked to provide for the family.
mhm,
And my dad was a very loving guy, very wise man. But one day, out of the blue, he just brings me a CD, and he never did that. And he was
mhm,
just like, "I heard this, and I thought you really like it." And we were like really poor up until I was about a sophomore
mhm.
in high school. And he gives that CD to me, and I loved it. It was the band 311, but it just, even to this day, it sticks in my mind as one of the most loving things. It's like he thought of me,
Yeah, absolutely. For real.
So if you have your SO and, say they have a favorite meal,
Mhm,
dude, stop what you're doing. Don't watch your football game. Cook that meal for her. You don't have to do it every day. That's the mistake we make. It's those tiny little. It's death by a thousand cuts, but it's life by a thousand kindnesses too.
boom. Spontaneous.
Yeah.
Spontaneous. Women usually are really responsive to surprises and
Hmm.
things that catch them off guard. And that really doesn't cost a lot,
Oh,
but it definitely means a lot. So if we're like under that 70%, there are things we can do that are so effective that even if we only got 5 minutes and have that impact, that it kind of outweighs those percentages.
yeah.
Like flowers.
Flowers. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, evolution. What the broads is like. F it. All right. That's like. I would tell you, man, that is one thing I've been, because I have a lot of lady friends, and they,
Mhm.
whenever they've ever had a complaint about something going on in their life, it is 9 times out of 10, it's just effort, and it
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
back to what you're talking about there. It's just
Mhm.
like, yeah, I don't know. It's life is hard to. It is so hard
Uh,
because we're in constant survival mode. There's inflation, wars
mhm.
all over the place. I mean, it can seem so daunting and scary. And then like we come home and it's like, my God, I have to deal with this too. Can't you just give me a minute to breathe? And
Man.
yeah, dude, but I think there's humans are weird creatures.
Mhm.
And it's our own genetics that makes it difficult to live because our brains, we're operating on old software, basically. All right. I
Mhm.
call it the lizard brain, nod to Lee Child in that reference, because our brains are tuned to think about things negatively
Mhm.
because negative stimulus keeps, it teaches us to survive, like you put your hand on the hot stove, right?
Yeah,
Do that.
absolutely.
And so, we quickly go to the negative instead of the positive. That's why
Mhm.
when you meet a person that's positive all the time, you're like, man, this can't be real. But I got a friend of mine, her name's Kelsey.
Mhm.
And bro, she's one of the most positive human beings I know. And more positive than even, my wife is. My wife's a pretty positive person.
Mhm.
And when you first meet a person like that, you're like, yeah, it can't be. But then you're around them enough, it's like they genuinely just want to look at the world in a positive way. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think if we start gearing ourselves towards that, and we start in the home, start with ourselves, and then bleed it on to the people that we love, it's like a pebble in a pond, right?
Yeah,
It would,
absolutely.
yeah, it just goes out into the world. It's,
Hmm.
it's like you doing stuff like this. This is a pebble in a pond. You're
Hmm.
spreading good knowledge, and trying to help
Hmm.
people out in, these things that you're aggregating into this cast. That matters. And I think if we do more of this, I think it will make a difference. And I think if you just attack your person with, I know it's such a weird way to say it, but if you attack your loved one with kindness
Hmm.
and attention, and don't go crazy about it where it's smothering,
Hmm.
I think most relationships would see a significant uptick in happiness and success.
Agreed. Agreed. Beautiful way to put that. But the truth is always the best thing to give.
Right.
And it's also the best thing to receive.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned your friends were saying that they would like more time with you, or you miss your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll skip that one because you already highlighted that a little bit. And then this is the boom. You thought it was deep before. Uh,
Uh-oh.
a lot of times um, we have to pay attention to this, and I'm sure only two people are out there experiencing this. uh, when you don't feel yourself anymore, when you don't feel like yourself, or like you don't feel like you can be yourself anymore in a relationship, and the look on your face right now. did I wake the giant?
Oh man. Dude, it's just I'm looking at the clock going, okay, like we've we had 20 hours. Man, that's a crazy awesome uh
Hmm.
statement, question,
Hmm.
because that goes straight to like the internal workings of human beings. We are not static creatures.
Hmm.
Okay. I was, this is so crazy. I was just talking to a student of mine yesterday. She's
Hmm.
19. All right. And we were
Hmm.
talking about a book that she's writing.
Wow.
And yeah, no, so she's an excellent writer.
Hmm.
And she was like, 5 years ago when I started this project, I was 14. And she said, I'm just a different person now. Now, you're talking about somebody who's only lived 19 years on this planet, but
Uh-huh.
recognizes a massive shift in consciousness and everything within 5 years. So
Yeah.
we always are changing. Life changes us, trauma changes us,
Hmm.
all these things. Like, I am not, bro, dude, me 5, 6 years ago, they used to have a nickname for me. It was Angry Sean, right? I would, oh, I hated, just, mad at everything. Um, but I have changed, and it
Hmm.
was a conscious effort to change. Um, and what happens as we change, and this is something I don't know how to qualify this, because it's almost like you want to have a test at the beginning before you get married, where it's like you do realize the person that you are marrying today will not be the same person 20 years from now,
Exactly. That's
right?
the point I'm getting to.
So what is the question then? It's like, what? How do you reconcile that?
Hmm.
I mean, again, sometimes people do grow apart. I know that happens, and I know that sometimes situations pull people apart that just become unmanageable
Hmm.
in life, and some of those situations are so attached to the other person in a relationship, it is toxic to the very life essence of the other person, and it's
Hmm.
just better that they're apart, and that can apply to so many things.
Hmm.
But if we're talking like kind of the overall sense of this question, I think if you truly love a person, you know, and I mean love them, then it's a matter of you have to love them for who they were, who they are now, and who they will be. And as long as that who they will be isn't like a mass murderer, that stomps puppies for fun, then you just kind of have to go with it
Yeah.
because like we're not we're not the same. And I mean the dude that I am today, God willing, I won't be in 5 years.
Hmm.
Hopefully I will improve upon myself,
Hmm.
for me and for everybody around me. But it's to I think to expect somebody to stay the same when you get married at the very young age of like 22 or something crazy like that, to be the same when they're 50 is insanity. And that's
Yeah.
not having any concept of what human beings are.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that change during life. I mean, so many things. It's just ridiculous on how many things we experience in a year. And then when you mention like 40 years, talk about writing books. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is something that everyday people don't think about, that I'm trying to get them to focus on, because just in 5 years, a 19-year-old, is expressing how much they've changed,
Yeah.
and they're not even with somebody, or they could be, but you know what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
not married and not fully attached to someone with a family. Uh, so yeah, man, that's great. This is good, right? You like it?
Dude, I'm loving this. I could talk human psychology and things like this all day. I love this kind of stuff because the thing is, I think this kind of stuff, and psychology is this weird thing because we
Hmm.
think we've got it nailed down, but we
Hmm.
don't. All right, we still can't even fully explain gravity, for God's sakes,
Right?
right? And let alone the intricacies of the human psyche.
Hmm.
But what's beautiful about this is you bring up a question or a thought,
Hmm.
that has some wisdom to it. Even it's funny because questions can be incredibly wise. The fact that somebody would think to ask something like that because it generates conversation.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that are going to hear this that think like I feel isolated from you, or I feel what was the word you said? You come into the house and I feel ignorant,
Uh,
or whatever it was.
it was. Let me go back a little bit. Neglected.
Neglected, thank you.
Hmm.
Neglected. All right, so there's somebody that's going to be out there. All right, and this is what's beautiful. The human touch points. We just don't understand all that we do,
Hmm.
and this is something that maybe the universe has been speaking to me, but it happens every day. Like
Hmm.
somebody will come up and say, "Man, you said this, and it changed everything." It's like, really?
Yeah.
So there's somebody out there that's going to see this, and they're feeling neglected with their
Hmm.
spouse, right?
Hmm.
And they're going to hear this and they're going, I feel like that. And then something you said or something I said is going to spark within them, and it may change the way they approach the conversation. So instead of that, line in the sand of excuse me, I
Hmm.
feel neglected. Excuse me.
Hmm.
When the person comes in the door, they'll say, hey, you know what, I made us some sandwiches and stuff. Let's sit down, have a nice meal, and then if you got a second for me afterwards, I just have like just a few things I'd love to talk to you about. And like that approach is way less shocking because if somebody like my SO did that, I would be like, oh, okay. I mean, we don't have to have. Do you want to talk now? And it would open the door, and they could say something like, I've just been feeling this, and I was just going to say, I've been feeling neglected, but I don't want you to feel attacked. I want you to
Hmm.
hear me.
Yeah.
You know,
And in a small gesture like eating first and having a nice little meal first, it really reduces the stress and tension, and you both are usually relaxed after you get a good something in your belly. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Uh,
absolutely, man.
so that is a very effective way to engage into a conversation like that. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
No, take note, ladies. Make your man a sandwich. No, I'm gonna get you murdered. Yeah, this guy's podcast. He was saying some awesome stuff. Dude was like, "Arr."
Oh
Oh,
man. So the last one we want to pay attention to is the distance between the both of you. A lot of people don't really think about this, but some really good points that I have here are just as simple as sitting on the opposite end of the couch,
mm,
or you're upstairs and they're downstairs, or vice versa. Um, and taking a long way home from work, um, or just one of you being in the house wondering where the other one is. Um, there's a lot there, um, but since I said these things, what's going through your mind, Sean?
well, it's funny because like I know how my marriage operates, and it's funny because we'll be sitting on opposite ends of the couch,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden I'll feel like this little poke on my leg, and she's like stretching all the way over. She's tiny. She's like 5 foot nothing, so she has to really extend her leg, but to like kind of poke me just to like it. But it's so sweet, to just like, hey, I'm here, right?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And I'll grab her foot or something like that. And it's nice when you're around somebody that wants to be around you. That's very
Mm-hmm.
cool. It's a nice thing. But what is can be equally egregious is, even if you're right next to somebody, you can be miles apart, man.
Yeah.
And that distance can be it's an energy thing, a soul thing. And
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, this is the thing. This is one of the reasons I dislike the smartphone culture, unless
Mm-hmm.
iPhones will get you some free product. Smartphone culture is so terrible, because I see people on dates and sitting next to each other, and they're not even talking. They're literally
Right.
just a foot apart from each other, instead of talking like this and sharing ideas and you know like building their minds and their connection. They're literally doing this, and
Uh-huh.
it's like you're nowhere near one another.
Right.
You could be lying on top of the other person physically, just and if you're both on your phones, you might as well be, like you said, miles apart down the
Mhm.
road in a coffee shop, and they could be in Timbuktu.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
exactly.
I think intention is very important
Mhm.
in this world. And I mean, if you want to get theological about it, intention, they say sometimes the path to hell is paved with good intentions, but I think intention matters. Like if you want, like I say, get theological, the Great Spirit knows your heart kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I think if our intention is that we want to be present with our person, then we will do things to make ourselves present with our person. And that will breed a closeness that proximity will never match. So you could
Boom.
be on opposite sides of the world, but if you intentionally go about building that closeness, then you know it's almost like that. What was it? Oh my God! An American Tale with Five of the Mouse, and they're singing under the same moon, kind of
Mhm.
thing. It's like cheesy, haha, cheesy pun. But it's like if we're under the same moon, and we're looking at it at the same time, we're still connected. It's like I love that idea. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and more people should look at the moon together. you know,
With
it's a
werewolf.
great thing to do if you've never done it, and the silence behind that, and where you are
Mm,
together, and what you're viewing, is
yeah,
priceless. It's priceless.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
So yeah, take a few moments and stare at the moon together.
Well,
Um,
real quick though,
yeah, yeah.
it's what you just said was everything.
Mhm.
take a few moments, right? That circles
Yeah.
back to the whole thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big gesture. It's
Mhm.
like pull your person. Like so many times, I've had nice little moments with not just my significant other, but just friends and
Mhm.
family.
Mhm.
Where if I see a sunset or something that I think instead of just like, man, that's beautiful, I'll grab them real quick and go, dude, come see this with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what that does emotionally for another human being, where it's just like, you know, they thought enough of me to bring me into this like this moment with them. It it does so much for our spirit and our well-being that you can't trade that,
Right.
right? And it
Mhm.
just makes people closer, but and it's such a small thing.
Mhm. Small things matter.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Um, so this leads us right into Leia's question number 2.
Oh, all right.
Small delay.
It's cool.
So Leia's question number 2 for today. It's the flip side of what we've been talking about. For someone who is the breadwinner or caregiver and dedicates most of their time to working and taking care of the rest of the family, when is their time for themselves, and how do they make that time for themselves? Uh huh.
Okay, this is a tough one because
Hmm.
what it requires, and this is just in my oh so humble opinion, it requires sacrifice on the other person. So let's say and let's flip the script on the traditional family setting. It's the
Hmm.
dad staying at home with the kids, right? And the
Hmm.
mom away at the law office all day, and she comes home, she's exhausted, she's been doing tort things, and comes in, the kids are like, mom, mom, mom.
Hmm.
The husband's like, I missed you so much, she's so tired and everything. And all day long the husband's been stuck with the kids and waiting to see her because he's excited to see her. She's exhausted when she gets home. What it takes is, you say that person's looking for time for themselves.
Hmm.
It takes a ton of communication between both people saying, look, I need time. It's not that I don't want to be around you. I have to get my energy straight, and I can't do that with all the stimulus coming in. All right.
Hmm.
It's not a lacking in my part. Not doesn't mean that I love you any or the kids any less. I just need a minute. And actually it is incumbent on, the person that's not the breadwinner to understand, like, look, I get it. You're at home with the kids, you're stuck all day, and the person that you're most excited to see is coming home, and you just want to go, "Brr." You need to give them a moment. Like
Yeah.
you need to sacrifice within yourself to go, this person needs a minute to decompress because the I don't know where evolution, I don't know where you're at with like energy and connectivity and
Hmm.
things, but like when we enter rooms in places, we need a minute to like get a feel for the energy of an environment. That's why I always tell comics, go to the club early. Do
Hmm.
not show up and do your stand up because you've got to get a minute to connect to your surroundings and get a feel for
Absolutely.
the place, right? You've
Hmm.
heard that term, get a feel for the whatever it
Yeah.
is. And if you're coming in from the outside, like in the way I always explain to people, like the energy of things is you got to picture like cartoon squiggles all around you of different varying shapes and sizes.
Hmm.
And, if your boss was yelling at you, that's one squiggle that's just going boom, 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 hitting you on the way home. And then you're listening to the radio on the way home, and it's like Biden did something stupid, Trump did something stupid. So now these different squiggles are hitting you, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I've got to, you know, do this thing, blah, blah, like so all these
Hmm.
things are hitting you, right?
Hmm.
And when you step through that threshold into your home, like it takes a minute to just kind of slough off all of that stuff and
Oh
get
yeah.
centered at your place. And it it's a team effort on things like that. And when you're single, hell, it's easy. You just walk in, boom,
Right.
hassle.
So basically here, you're basically paying attention to their body language. when you are inside the house already? Do they look frustrated? Are they exhausted? Are they happy? Are they in a good mood? Or like you said, do they just need a minute to unwind?
Yep.
You know, and I think for something like that, um, even if they have a bad day, when they come through the door, like you said, a hug, anything nonverbal, a massage, you
Hmm.
know, I've heard this is kind of dated, but women used to have the bath water ran for their husband when they got home from work. You know,
Man, yeah.
does
I haven't heard
does
that in a long time, but yeah,
but
right. No.
think of how effective that is. You come home after working hard, being stressed, physically and mentally.
Hmm.
Uh, you go home to a nice hug and you peel it all off, getting a nice warm tub of water, and you're just like, ah,
Yeah.
you know, and then you're ready for anything after that.
Yeah.
You know,
Connecting to water, man. Life
yeah,
essence. Yeah, that's awesome.
absolutely. Hmm. So, you had anything to elaborate on that?
Well, you know, I know. Okay, so from my own personal experience, my wife's kids, they, especially when she's working late and I'm home before she is,
Hmm.
which seems to be a rarity anymore. Um, her daughters will, they have all this stuff that happened at school, and they'll just, I mean, as soon as they hear the door open, it's like that is the signal, and they just come out of their rooms and just say, "Mom, blah 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 blah." Blah." And I've had to more than once. They're better about it now, but like when they were a bit younger, I had to be like, ladies, give, because you would just see as soon as she comes through the door and all that's coming at her,
Hmm.
you know, it isn't running the bath water, but me stepping in going, girls, hold on, give her a second. And I would just watch her, because
Yeah. Hmm.
she would tense up,
Yeah.
with like,
Mhm.
all this energy coming at her. And so they would back off and they would, either go to the rooms or go sit and chill for a second. And she was able to
Mhm.
put her purse down, take a minute. And then it literally, it's so interesting to watch the physicality of it, because then she would come to the room and you could see like she was, and it's her home, but
Yeah.
she's still
Yeah.
acclimating to the environment, and would sit down and she'd literally be like, okay. And then, she would be able to talk and
Hmm.
engage and everything. And so, yeah, that's not running the bath water, but doing like that little thing for her in that moment completely changed that moment and how that could have gone down, where she might have snapped or,
Hmm. Hmm.
said something curt or not been. And that's the other thing too, not listening.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like we, we have so much going on and we don't listen to absorb and think. We listen to respond in this culture, and it is unfortunate. We get the first, I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's a very small percentage of what is actually coming in. And then our brain already formulates a response instead of, you know, us. And I was very bad about that. So, I mean, even, today I fight myself when somebody starts talking, I'll stop and I'll just, and I wait
Uh-huh.
and listen to the entirety. I'm present.
Yeah.
I was a future person, a future and past. I was very rarely present, and now
Mhm.
I fight to be present. And in doing so, oh my God, dude, I have noticed so much stuff that I never noticed before, and it's crazy.
You're welcome. You're welcome, world.
Yeah,
All the many millions of listeners and watchers out there today. uh,
big help.
so, yes, yeah, absolutely. And to wrap it up,
Mhm.
we have to pay attention to all of the options that we have to help us uh, find the time that we need to give to the significant other and make things more balanced, even if it's just a little bit of time. So, some of the ideas I have in that is take a vacation, or take more vacations. A lot of times nowadays, people are doing staycations.
Hmm.
Um, and then I'll ask them once they get back, well, what'd you do? I had a staycation. You do anything? Well, I just did some stuff around the house. That's not what a vacation is for. You know what I mean? You have to use the time for what it's for. Heck, take them to go get some ice cream. You know, a little small gesture like that goes a long way, especially with children. You know,
Hmm.
and then you get playful with the ice cream. They can take it a whole nother way. I
Yep.
can take it a whole nother distance. But it's even as simple as taking a 3-day weekend. I mean,
Hmm.
where we live in Kansas City, is so many places you can go, not even within the city, but like if you go out an hour or two or three, you can experience a whole lot just from being in this area, and it's not that expensive. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to buy a $2,000 plane ticket. You don't have to
Hmm.
spend a night in a $500 night hotel. You can hop in your car, fill the tank up, go for a ride, have some fun, come back.
You want to hear something crazy? A lot of people
Yeah.
don't think about.
Hmm.
All right, peek this out. So we spend money on coffee and all these little frivolous things, and I'm not going to fault anybody. We have, as far as we know, one go around on this
Hmm.
lifetime.
Hmm.
So if you're going to get your coffee, enjoy it. Don't let somebody beat you down about it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you talk about that 3-day thing, and you don't have to buy an expensive plane ticket. Some plane tickets are incredibly cheap,
They
and you
are.
can literally, just for funsies, get a cheap plane ticket round trip for 100 some odd bucks,
Yeah.
go across the country to somewhere you've never been,
Hmm.
book a couple nights in a hotel, walk around, explore, and then go back like from Friday to a Sunday.
Yeah.
You could be like, I live up in Michigan. You could fly out to New York. Not that you'd want to. Haha.
We love you, New York.
Well, we do. We do. I've got plenty of friends up in New York. I'm being a Midwesterner.
Right?
But literally, you could go see the Big Apple and just walk around, experience stuff, and not, spend a ton of money and just absorb the things. Maybe do one big thing, come back, and instead of going to the Bahamas and spending $5,000, you could spend 500 bucks and have an adventure in
Yeah,
a week.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You can vacation all the time,
Hmm.
and people don't, like you said, man, Kansas City. You're right. There are so many things within just a few hours driving distance. It's crazy.
Yeah.
People don't know. But you know what? This circles back to what you're saying earlier, the ruts and things.
Hmm.
And they're
Hmm.
just, we get into these ruts instead of, you know what, let's hop in the car and drive. Like where I'm at, I'm literally about an hour and 45 minutes from Chicago.
Hmm.
There's a whole world there of just
Yeah,
stuff, right?
absolutely. And there's
So
always something going on.
absolutely. So yeah, man, absolutely. I'm 100% about that.
Yeah. Great, man. And sometimes, you know, we do need the time with the family. You know what I'm saying? It's been days where I've been at work and I'm like, shoot, I've been here all week. I miss my sons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll tell them, hey, let's go catch a movie. I might be tired. I might doze off in the theater. But you know what? There's that experience and that time to connect with my boys, and they have a great time. And they know dad's tired. Like, Dad, you fell asleep in the theater again. I'm like, I seen most of the movie. you know, you
Yeah.
guys get them some snacks, even though they're way too expensive in the theater. Uh, but,
Yeah.
moments like that just create that connection and keep it tight.
Mhm.
And you can just feel good about it for one and say, hey, what'd you do yesterday? Oh man, I took my kids to the movie, man. We had a great time. What'd you see? Well, I saw most of. you know. But
That's
yeah,
such a great thing, dude. That's such a
yeah.
great thing. I will tell you, one of my fondest memories from my childhood with my mom is, and this is gonna date me, but when Return of the Jedi came out on the big screen, okay, we went to see it. She took the day off work because I took the day off school. We were both so excited about it coming out. And we went to see it, and we leave the movie theater, and she looks down at me. She goes, "You want to go see it again?" And,
Nice.
I just lit up like a Christmas tree, dude. I was just like, yes. And we went in to see it again. And then we saw it 3 times that day.
Nice.
And dude, that was when I was a little kid, and I'm talking about it as an adult.
Yeah.
So you talk about, I take my sons, even though, man, that is going to stick with them. You can't trade that stuff because that is going to build them as human beings, right? They will know what kindness is through your actions. Even though Dad was tired, he took me, and my brother or sister to the movies, and that's great stuff, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, man. And hopefully everybody else can appreciate that. Mr. Sean Shank, thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate you, man. Hopefully you can come back and do it again. But that's all I got, unless you have something.
No, man, I'm 100% grateful that you had me on your cast. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. Jukebox was like, yeah, he talks about life, and I seen some clips and things. I've been trying to follow what you're doing with like what very little time I have.
Right.
Saw the stuff that some of the stuff he had with Pat and things. But as far as subject matter, and man, this couldn't have been cooler. Like I loved every minute of it. This is great. And I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing, and I really hope the people that see this understand the value of what you're putting in the world, because it's good stuff. We need more of this kind of thing in the world.
Well, man, I really appreciate that. And thank you so much. I'm glad you had a great time. Again, I would love to have you back at some point. I know you're a very busy man. But ladies and gentlemen, take time for each other, man. Do something good with yourself today. Do something good with your significant other today. And try to do that every day. All right? So that's life. Have a good night. Take care, Sean.
All right. We good? We off tape?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. That's why I just sit and freeze for a minute, because I know it's like we've got that last little bit. So I try to be quiet.
Actually, it looks like it's still running. Where you at? Where you at, Jukebox?
This is one for the blooper reels. Like,
right.
What happens behind the scenes?
Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect. Man. But get a hold of Jukebox and get my information so we can connect, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you so much. This was a blast.
You're welcome. All right. I'm glad you had fun. Take care.
Yeah, all right. Later, brother.
All right, man.